Hi all, welcome. Happy Monday. Welcome to the Wife of Caesar. My name is Michel Levien or Michel Levien, either is fine. I'm very happy to be with you as every Monday. And as you know, the Wife of Caesar is Streiner's project to talk about corruption or anti-corruption using everyday words so that we can fight corruption in our day-to-day lives with a little bit more than just good intentions. Okay, so as with every episode, we're gonna discuss a piece of news, a case, and a typology. In the piece of news, we talk about current events that are related to corruption or to anti-corruption. In the case, we talk about current cases or maybe some older cases, but are somehow related to what we're trying to convey. And in the typology section, we talk about the different ways or the concrete steps in which someone can commit an act of corruption. Okay, so let's move on to the news. As in other episodes, today the news and the case are one and the same, and we will talk about Mario Marin. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mario Marin was the governor of the Mexican state of Puebla. He was infamous for being involved in several corruption scandals, obviously alleged corruption scandals. None of them have been proven to date, or at least not so far, but this might be the exception. To give you a little bit of background, there is a writer or journalist by the name of Lidia Cacho, and she wrote a book named Los Demonios del Edén in 2004. This is wrong, of course. Sorry about that. 2004. And in that book, she documented well-established networks of child prostitution and child pornography. Now, among she actually named names. Among the names that she named were several businessmen or business people, and a lot of them were connected with politically exposed persons. Now, one of those businessmen, doesn't matter who, was related, at least in friendship, with another businessman who was not related in the child pornography scheme, but they were, friends. And that person was Mr. Jose Kamel Nassif. Now, he in turn was related to the governor of Puebla. And the scandal was that they allegedly abused that connection or that relation with the governor of Puebla to commit several crimes against Ms. Cacho. Now, they were accused of the illegal arrest of Ms. Cacho in another state, the state of Quintana Roo. False imprisonment, which is essentially when you deprive someone of their freedom without proper cause or due process. They were accused of the crime of assault, which is physically harming someone, torture, harming someone so that they can commit or refrain from committing legal actions, and violations to due process, which is essentially twisting the rules of the game in your favor. Now, there was a criminal process against Ms. Cacho for publishing the book. The criminal process alleged slander. Slander is the crime of stating improper or false statements against someone to the detriment of that person. The business people involved and named in her book actually sued her criminally for slander, and the process was followed. In the course of that process was when the authorities of the state of Quintana Roo and the state of Puebla got involved, and in the midst of all of that was when the alleged crimes took place: torture, battery, false imprisonment, all of that. Okay. Now, once the process against Ms. Cacho was concluded, she then in turn countersued or began a criminal process against the former governor of Puebla, against Mr. Nassif, and against several other people who were involved in the scheme. Now, in the course of that process, several things happened, but the most important part was that a judge in Quintana Roo issued a warrant for the arrest of the former governor, of the businessman, and of other people who were related to the situation. Most of them public officials at the time of the Marin administration. And in connection with that federal warrant, Interpol was connected, and Interpol issued a red notice. For those of you who don't know, a red notice is when Interpol issues an international warrant for the arrest of someone, and that means that the representations of Interpol in the 190 countries where it is represented have the power to arrest that specific person wherever they find him or her. Why is this a relevant case? Because in this case, through several stages and with several people where different types of corruption were involved. Now, we have to, number one, we have to signal out political corruption, as we've discussed in several other episodes. Political corruption is when a public official manipulates public institutions, public policy, or procedural rules, which are essentially the rules of the game. And they do so with the purpose of maintaining status, power, or wealth, or a combination of the three. Now, in this particular case, the person who did that, the public official who did that, was also a politically exposed person. For those of you who don't know, a politically exposed person, or PEP, is a person who holds or has held public office, his or her family and friends, and any known associates. So essentially anyone who is somehow connected to politics, to public office, or has somehow been connected to those places. So in this case, the PEP is Mr. Marin, the former governor. The second crime involved in this scheme is the crime of bribery, and also trafficking in influence. Trafficking in influence, the difference between trafficking in influence and bribery is that here, in trafficking in influence peddling, there is no exchange of money. The benefit that the corrupt public official receives is the actual benefit, or the enjoyment of a good relationship with the other person. So they do this out of political will. The case itself has yet to be resolved. Obviously, they will hopefully, they will find and arrest these people and bring them to justice. Now, you have to know that these crimes allegedly took place. They have not been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, so they still have to come back to Mexico and stand trial because they have not been tried yet. So it would be improper to refer to them as criminals, rather alleged criminals or accused criminals. We will be sure to keep our ear on the ground and let you know as soon as we know of any developments in the case. Okay, so let's move on to the typology. Today's typology, again, comes by way of Alexandra Rogge, who is the head of Trace International and who hosts the podcast called Bribe, Swindle, or Steal. Check it out. It's actually pretty good. And the typology is called Check Please. Okay, in this typology, most of the time, in cases of corruption, there is, again, an improper benefit. Abuse of entrusted power in exchange for improper benefit. Now, here, the improper benefit is paid indirectly to the person, as with most cases. We have talked about how sometimes the actual bribe is paid to a third party related to the corrupt official. In this case, it's not even that. It's farther removed. The corrupt public official gives improper gains to a person or company who is interested in such gains, such as a contract or a permit or things like that. And in exchange for that, the improper benefit that the company or the corrupt person gives to the public official is not exactly money, but what they do is, it does translate to money. What they do is they pay their bills for them. How would they do this, or why? Well, sometimes they cover country club fees, country club dues, social club fees for timeshare, tuitions for school, credit cards, and things like that. And again, this benefit is directly translated into financial profit, but is indirectly paid. So it's really hard to trace. And because most of the time the money is paid to private institutions, it's very hard to monitor. Now, it gets even harder when these organizations accept cash payments. So, for example, you would be able to pay your country club dues in cash, and it's very loosely regulated. It's not a regulated industry. And as we've mentioned before, the opacity with which this is handled lends itself to abuse. It places itself in a prime position to be abused for use in corrupt schemes. Now, there's an added layer of risk to that, because these operations most of the time take place in cash, but they also lend themselves to be handled using cryptocurrency, other platforms like PayPal or Venmo, prepaid cards, or the money laundering system or the private banking system known as Hawala. For those of you who don't know and are interested, Hawala is essentially a system where money is transferred from person to person and no records are kept. The person that receives the money simply has to remember how much money they had to deliver to someone else. This happens all the time between people who are migrating from one country to the other. The problem with the check please scheme is that it's, again, very, very hard to monitor. And so it makes it harder for law enforcement authorities to follow the money, to follow the track of the money. And if you layer it with other typologies like Panamanian companies where the shares of stock are owned by the bearer, then the veil of opacity becomes thicker and thicker, and it's harder for authorities to trace the money. Okay, so that was it for today. I hope you found it interesting. Thank you for joining us at the Wife of Caesar. Again, my name is Michel Levien, or Michel Levien, either's fine. And I will leave you with this, as always. Every act of corruption should be reported. You should blow the whistle, but you should do so safely. If you come across something and you're not sure whether or not that act is corrupt, or you're not entirely certain that you are personally safe, don't do anything. Reach out to someone who can help you. Feel free to reach out to us at info@streiner.mx, and we will be glad to help you. But above all, stay safe. Okay, thank you for joining us, and have a happy Monday.